Leslie Salazar-Carrillo, and this is Life Grounded. I cannot even tell you how excited I am about today. I have been waiting for this. I have somebody with me today that has been an inspiration to me. She is a fellow warrior. She is in the battle every single day of this pro-life movement. She has inspired me, encouraged me, and honestly, she has the battle scars to prove what a fight that we're in. So please welcome Tammy DeArmas, CEO of Alternatives Medical Clinic located in Escondido, California. Welcome, Tammy. I'm so excited. We don't even know where this is going to go. Yeah, this could get a little crazy. It's sure. Double trouble. So thank you for being here. We're going to try to keep it about 20 minutes, but who knows if you and I can do that. But I'm just so excited to have you here. So Tammy, tell us a little bit about who you are outside of this movement, because we're going to get into the movement and deep into that movement, but tell us who you are outside.
Okay. Well, I am first and foremost a daughter of the Most High King. Yes. Very grateful to be his daughter. I am a wife. My husband, Pete, we've been married 33 years and together 5 years before that. So, we started dating when we were 2. No, but he's my soulmate. And then I have 3 adult children and a beautiful daughter-in-law, and probably by the end of this year, a son-in-law as well, too. Yeah. So that's me and my family, and that's what I am outside. I love to cook. That's kind of my right brain release. Being in the pro-life, I don't call it pro-life, I call it pro-compassion, because we're all about life, but we're all about compassion for each and every person that walks in there. So I tend to broaden that, but I need some right brain release. So I like to cook. Yeah, it's my off the charts thing that I do.
We were just talking about when we take vacation, and sometimes Tammy and I paint our rooms in the house, homes, because that's how we release some of that stress. And it's amazing the conversations you have with God while you're rolling paint.
Right. So, well, I think it's a kinesthetic thing. Like, I have to be doing something as I'm thinking, and I know as a director, you never stop thinking about your ministry, God's ministry, the business side, the medical side, everything is always going. So as long as you're, going up and down on a paint, or you're swirling in the sauce, you're always thinking about it.
Yeah, that is true. And that is so true, because we live, breathe, eat, and sleep this movement. So tell me a little bit of what called you to this movement, because it is a movement.
Sure.
And why are you so passionate about just this compassion and this life movement? What draws you here?
Well, I think first and foremost, the compassion is because I've fallen on this very battlefield. When my husband and I were 19, we weren't husband and wife, but we fell on this battlefield in college. And it was a thing where I would never, ever do this till it happened. And then that's where I fell on that. And it's something that will go to my grave with me, except for the forgiveness that we've both received from the Lord. So I have that. Times have changed. I'm going to get older. We're all going to get older. But when the girl walks in the door and has this scared look on her face, I totally understand what that feels like when she walks in, that fear. If she's a believer, is God big enough to handle this? If she's not a believer, who is she? Where is she? What are her beliefs? What is she believing about this? So my compassion is for the young woman as well as the baby. There's not a day that goes by that I don't think of that young baby that would now be 35 years old. Yeah. So I think the lie of get this done and you can move on with your life is a lie from the pit of hell that the culture has drank, and young women drink. So I want to be there for them, be a part of that.
And isn't that true? Gosh, you can't tell them what their future is going to be, but I think that that's so much of our passion in this is, you have no idea what you're ascribing your future towards. You have absolutely no idea, what that's going to look like for you in 10, 15, 30 years. What does that look like? And I think that that's the love that we have for these women is, I love you so much, and that can only come from Christ. I love you so much. I don't want you to feel this pain. I don't want you to have to go through your whole life feeling that deep pain. Even though Christ has forgiven that, he forgave that on the cross. The tomb speaks to the victory over that and every other sin.
Exactly.
But gosh, there are sins that have higher consequences.
Right.
And that's...
I just remember one day it hit me when my kids were little and they were outside in the backyard playing, and two things happened. On Sunday, I had heard a woman speak at church, and she shared her testimony about having an abortion, and tears just came down my face. Somebody publicly speaking about this, and so then fast forward to the sink, watching the kids play in the backyard. I said, God, I would want to do that, but if I admit that abortion is wrong, then that's saying that I don't love these three because I should have had that one, and then the likelihood of these three ever being born wouldn't be likely because we would have been teenage couple, we probably wouldn't be together. All these, I love to play God on the side. And so I was calculating what that was going to look like. And I really felt like he said, I have that baby in heaven. I blessed you with these three others. Go and share the truth with others. Who better than can talk to people who have fallen on that battlefield? And the forgiveness of that battlefield, and then the blessing of these. So then that started a whole trajectory of talking to my husband about working at the pregnancy center, volunteering at the pregnancy center, being on the board there, and then even sharing with the kids down the road what that looked like to share with each one of them what happened to us so that they would know. And there's freedom in that. There's a lot of pain. There's a lot of tears, a lot of crying. But then there's, when you shed light on the darkness, there's now no more condemnation.
And that feeling backed in a corner. And,
Exactly.
When people are backed in the corner, the decisions that we make. And in a later podcast, I'm going to be talking about that woman and what does she think, and what are her fears and her worries. So we hear a lot about what people are against on both sides of this movement, because there's two sides. I think there's a middle side too of, I don't really know how I feel, but there are two polar opposites of this. Let's talk about what people who believe life should be protected are for, because we hear so much about what are we against. But let's talk about what we're for, because that's big. That's I don't think that's talked about enough.
Sure.
What are we for?
What are we for? I think the idea of life and freedom in that, we're not into backing somebody in a corner at all, but the idea that this woman have life, this child have life, this is an innocent child that has nobody speaking for them. And I will never put down the mom because that was me. Yeah. So I totally respect where she's coming from. I think one of the things that we need to look at too is that we want her to make an informed choice. Granted, there's not a pregnancy center that I know of that isn't a life-affirming pregnancy center. But at the end of the day, our mission and visions cannot be their choice, because we'll fail miserably, because that's up to them. And we never try to convince, coerce. We give them what is truth, speak the truth in love, and help them answer some hard questions. Give some time to them, have them be heard. Many of them are still processing. How many of us go through have a choice that we need to make a decision, but really don't have all the framework to do that, or nobody to talk to? The people that you would most likely go to as a young girl, maybe your mom, your dad, friends, teachers, you don't want to because there's a huge fear factor. What if somebody finds out? What am I going to do? So who do you have to go to? So what are we for? We're for her, number one, for freedom in that, for family. If there's a father of the baby that's involved, we want him to be a part of that. And of course for the baby too. And as a result of that, there's options, not only parenting, but then the beautiful choice of adoption, which I think that's one thing I know even in California, our state has done well as far as being pro-baby for once they're brought into this world, having a mom and dad, an open adoption. Back in 1982, it wasn't an open adoption, so I would have never known where that baby went. So this is all about the baby for the birth mom and the adoptive couples too.
And I think we're for showing her, so many things were going through my mind when you were talking about this. You know, when I hashtag things, you know, it's always in this order: pro-woman, pro-man, pro-family, pro-baby, pro-life, in that order. Like, let's focus on her because, yes, we want to protect that baby because, you know what, at that moment of crisis, she actually can't. She can't. She's not in that position mentally to even think about that baby. You know, and so that's where we walk into her crisis, not to make that decision for her, but to kind of calm that crisis down because we are for her. And like we just said earlier, we don't want her living with that lifetime of pain. We just don't. And so really stepping into her darkness. And it really drives me nuts when people say, oh, you're just, you know, pro-birth, you're just pro-baby. Oh gosh, that is so not true because, like I said earlier, we supernaturally love her. We don't want to coerce her because that's not good for her. And we're always thinking about what's good for her, but
well, many of us were her. So of course we're going to come alongside her and want to love her well through that. Pregnancy, like our pregnancy center, we have scholarships for them to go on to college. We have all those other resources that we can come alongside them and help them with that. So the pro-birth thing, I completely disagree with because we love those women and we love those women well. I always say we're the last ray of hope and the first sign of mercy. Because should she walk out that door and choose to abort that child, she is more than welcome to come in that next day and talk to us and maybe do post-abortion care, whatever it is, because now there's a different issue on her mind, but she's still the patient in front of us and we want to love her well.
Absolutely. That's always what I say is let's love her so well that if that's what she chooses, that we loved and respected her so much that she will feel comfortable to come back to us because now her life looks very different and we want to help her rebuild that life because we don't want her spiraling and being left alone because now she's really alone and we want to bring her in without condemnation. And even on the adoption, I think that we're for community. It is a community. Let's carry her through in this community. Whatever choice that she makes, you know, whatever choice she's going to make, we're going to love her through it. You know, we just know that some choices have harder consequences than others and harder pain. So there's a lot of negative press about pregnancy medical clinics. And tell me what you think the heart of a PMC, because you know there's been a lot of movement. We used to be called pregnancy resource centers. Now we're called pregnancy medical clinics because we are actually licensed medical facilities. Tammy and I both run clinics that are accredited, so we went through a very large accreditation process because this ministry deserves excellence, and that way we know that we're doing everything excellent. But at the very heart of it, the very mission, what is the heart of a PMC?
The heart of a PMC, other than what we've discussed, the woman being there, it is to show that woman, that man, the value of whose they are. They're Christ-centered missions. It's a mission and it's a business because we're a medical clinic. But I think it's when they walk in the door, I would hope when they leave, if they don't know when they walked in, they know whose they are. Not who they are, but whose they are as a result of it. We chose to do accreditation because it does show excellent medical care, because we serve a God that doesn't want perfection, but he wants excellence. And those girls that walk in the door deserve excellence. If she was your daughter, your granddaughter, you would want her to have excellent health care. It's all free because of the gracious donors, but she still deserves to have that excellent health care and that excellent love alongside. I don't think that there's other, I mean, I love my own personal doctors, but we are able to be in there and give excellent medical care and then come alongside too and share the gospel. Who else does that? Where else does that happen in this world? Except I think that the pregnancy centers, the medical clinics for sure, are the light in the communities. The resource centers as well. I'm not disputing the resource centers, just because working in a medical clinic, I've seen lives just completely transformed.
We always say at Pathway, you know, it's care they can't get anyplace else. And it's not that a doctor's office, like you said, doesn't give good care, but we get this holistic, full body, full around. And that is amazing that we can be a licensed medical clinic with the fragrance of Christ. One time I heard somebody say that deep faith, it has the fragrance of an expensive perfume. And that's always what I want.
That would be a great club.
Yes.
Deep faith on that.
Our new business venture.
Heard it here.
Don't be surprised. Half of our proceeds go back to the life-affirming movement.
There you go.
But just that fragrance, you know, to me, it's like the book of Esther. God's name is never mentioned. And sometimes we have a patient and God doesn't open that door. He just doesn't. And that's okay, because I'm not going to try to bust down a door that God is clearly not opening. But we've planted a seed. She doesn't understand why she's so loved when the world is condemning her. She already knows that. Like, we're not going to add that on to her. But she just knows that she was loved differently. And even if God's name isn't spoken, his presence is very much known.
Completely. We've had patients where they're like, something's different about being in here. And I want to say, that's the Holy Spirit air freshener that you're smelling that's coming out. But I know, I'm not a medical professional, but I know our nurses have talked about PIEs, physical, intellectual, emotional, psychosocial, spiritual. So when she sits down with the nurse is evaluating all these things, taking the whole body as a holistic approach versus just the physical, just the pregnancy test, just the facts, ma'am. That's not the case, because they're watching. Even if she says one thing but body language tells another, I always say the nurses are somewhat investigators, because they're looking, and they, a young girl can say, oh yeah, I'm think I'm 2 weeks pregnant. Well, she can see in the ultrasound, okay, no, this is quite a bigger baby or whatever. You can't, the nurses have the diagnostic tools, but then they also have the wisdom, and all of the nurses are believers, so they totally want to come alongside on that spiritual side and talk to them about that.
Yeah, I always say, you listen to hear, you listen for what she's not saying, you better be, you listen for what she's saying, but you better be listening for what she's not saying, because she is speaking volumes in just her body language. And you're just listening and you're watching because you care. You're invested in her, and nobody's maybe invested in her. So tell me, how is so we just talked about the heart of it. How is that different than what people actually say that we are?
Well, I don't think people actually know. We're always asking people to give tours so we can show them exactly what we do. I think that there's a lie out there that we're judgmental. It's our way or the highway, and that couldn't be further from the truth. That would be ridiculous to even think that. We're not. There's no condemnation. There's no guilt. There's no shame. But we are going to give them facts about where they are in their pregnancy. She's got the options. We have a wonderful decision-making guide that the nurses used with them. And so many times the girls come in calculating that one way, and then after looking at it saying, I really do want this. And I think it's a great tool for anybody to use in any great decision. But the lie is that we're coercive. I've heard numerous stories about things like that, and that would never. I know that would never happen at Alternatives and Pathways, any of the other pregnancy centers that I know. It's not that way. We treat them respectfully and honestly, compassionately, above all, wanting the best for them. Yeah. I would say for my team, most of us are moms or grandmothers, and love those ladies when they come in as professionally, but have a heart for them too.
Yeah, and in fact, we were just under, there's a movement, Spot the Fake Clinic, and is always trying to trap us. We got a couple of unusual phone calls last week, and sometimes what they say about us is almost laughable if it wasn't so serious, because people do believe that. And, for you and I and pregnancy medical clinics across the board, we answer to somebody higher. If we were deceptive, I have to stand before God. You have to stand before God as the leader or shepherd of this ministry, because we are a ministry, we are a medical clinic, we're a corporation, we're all of these things. But you don't lie to God's people, whether they know they're God's people or not.
Right.
They're God's people.
Right.
And so some of the stuff that they say is so ridiculous, because we couldn't do that and operate and have a license. I mean, we would be found out. And Alternatives has been in existence for how many years?
30. Over 30.
Yeah, and Pathway for 22 years. I think somebody would find us out if we did that. So it always...
And I think the good news on that, there are people that are, the fake callers. They're trying to trap you, I guess, as the term is. But we provide excellent health care all across the board. So no one's going to trap us at, I'm going to say this to you, I'm going to say this to you, I'm going to say that. No, we are who we are, and it's very transparent. We're vulnerable in that instance, but we do provide excellent health care.
Yes. We just had that. I was out of the office, and our director of patient services, I said, hey, we're under this Spot the Fake clinic. I'm not going to be in. You don't need to worry about anything, because we don't do anything wrong. Just tell what we do. You know what we do, and we're fine with that, because when you don't lie, you don't have anything to worry about. I remember when I was a kid, I had a lying problem, and my mom would say, see, if you tell one lie, you have to tell 10 other lies to cover up for the first lie, and you're going to trap yourself. And I just live by that. That's a whole lot of work. Yeah. It would be a whole lot of work to be deceptive,
Exactly.
And I'm a little lazy. I don't want to work that hard.
Well, this is, you mentioned something earlier. This is the core of who we are. It has become a political thing, and, what side are you on? There is nothing about politics for me, except that we live in a political world. But this is the value of life, what God's word says. Each one of these babies, moms and dads, all of us are made in his image. And we shouldn't be killing them innocently, as this is so easily made to do. The value of where the conception, things like that, which we're not going to get into, but that we have a core values of what we believe biblically. Yeah. So that's the power that we're going to stand by. And we have, it has gotten political with the lawsuits here in the state and deposing and things like that.
That you were under. You know what? That this is the thing that going back to the what are we for? We're for humanity. We're fighting for humanity. Humans are important to us. That person is important. Just because, like you said, they're created in the image of God. They therefore have value. Whether they're a 22-year-old girl, women our age, which we're not going to talk about, or a baby in the womb.
That would be like Sarah, though.
It would be. Somebody said that to me the other day, and I said, no, that would be like Sarah having a child, and God only did that once, and so he's not going to do it again.
But hear the laughter.
Yeah, exactly, right? Isn't that true? Like so many times you think, Sarah, I just laugh at God, and he calls me on it. So as we are wrapping up, Tammy, we walk under kingdom culture, and we've talked that a lot. I always talk about showing Jesus in the practical, the day-to-days. If you notice, Jesus showed himself in the practical. When people were hungry, he fed them. If they needed healing, he healed them. And we're not Jesus, but he was a great model, and what are you doing for my kingdom in the practical? Because I think sometimes we think, oh, if I'm not doing something big, I'm not doing anything at all. And I like the day-to-days. And we've talked a lot about it, but wrapping up is, if you could pare that down, how does alternatives show Jesus in the practical to a world who may not know him? But I know that their heart is searching for him.
I would say we serve a God who sees, right? Hagar out in the desert claimed that, and he is a God who sees. And so he sees whether it's one patient that walks into alternatives in a day or 10. He sees that. I think what we tend to get caught up in, like you were saying earlier, the numbers or the amounts in the practical. This is a huge problem, what's happening in this world with abortion. In this state, it's incredible. But the one that's the most important is the one sitting in front of the nurse. Yeah. So that's the practicality of it. And at the end of the day, if she doesn't show up for her appointment, we still need to be praying and on our knees for the next one to come in. And I think sometimes we as who we are, we want to do more. We want to see more. Okay, I've got 6 time slots. Let's get 6. Let's get 12. Let's double book. That is not God's economy. It's about the one that's in front of us. I always think of when Jesus walked in the pool at Bethesda and he picked one. There was others lying there, but he picked one. And I think, okay, well, if that one in our waiting room, that's the one that's needed right now, so we're going to be there. Or the one that calls, even if it's a phone call, our front office person will talk to people and not give medical care because she's not medical, but we never know what we've said that really caused, oh gosh, okay, this is truth, this is not truth. Yeah. So I think we are ministers, we're ambassadors of the King, and that doesn't matter whether we're in the cashier at Bonds or at the gas station, wherever we are, we still are sharing Christ, not necessarily, verbatim, but by our actions too.
Yeah, I think of that song, "They will know we are Christians by our love." That's how she knows. And even in the practicalities right now during COVID, and I know you guys are doing it too, because we call each other often, is somebody calls and said, I have no diapers, I have no formula. Absolutely. Here you go. What else can we do for you? We just had a young couple come in, living in a motel, little one, no coat. Let's go find her a coat. I don't care if they're in our program. I mean, eventually I do, because that is going to set them up for success in their parenting. Give her the coat. Give them the diapers. Give them the formula. It's not my place to judge what their motives are. My place is, we have it, we're going to give it.
Yeah, you don't judge motives. You have the resources, you want to help them. And during COVID, in the beginning, give let's keep track, because we have to keep track so we know what we're doing. But I'm very grateful to be able to give those things out for people. And if somebody wants a little bit extra, is it going to hurt?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. And it goes back to that fragrance of Christ. Because I know you guys hear it too. Why are you guys doing that? Why are you guys so kind? Like, do I have to pay for this? Where do you?
Or it's like, what do you want?
Yeah.
What are you trying to, what's the catch? And I think that's the world we live in. What's the catch? I remember doing post-abortion work in one of the local jails, prisons, I forget the term. It was like, so what are you here for? What do you want from us? Like, we want nothing from you. We're not here for anything but you've had an abortion and so have I, so we can talk.
Yeah.
You're in jail, you got caught, I didn't,
Yeah.
Type of thing.
Yeah.
Because we're all in our own prisons. I don't mean that facetiously at all.
Yeah.
So just being there to help somebody.
So we are nonprofits. Pathway Health Clinic and Alternatives are nonprofit, and we are funded solely by donations. Gracious. And it's loaves and fishes. So if somebody wanted to get in contact with you, or they've been inspired by what you said, which I'm sure they have, because I'm always inspired by what she says, how do they get in touch with Alternatives?
Sure. You can call Alternatives Medical Clinic, and it's 760-741-9796. Or you can leave me an email. It's tdearmas@amc-ca.com. That would be great.
Tammy, I am so grateful to you as a friend, as a sister in Christ, as a fellow warrior. Thank you for being in the battle. Thank you for linking shields with me and so many other people. Thank you. Thank you for taking your pain and using it to glorify God. Because I think if we did that, if everybody took their pain and glorified God through it, how much could we help a hurting and fallen world, and they're desperate for that. So thank you so much. I just love your heart for God and his people and this ministry. So
it's an honor. It's an honor to do that. Why? It's what else can I do but do that? Yeah. So we always want to be busy doing something. And I had a pastor say once, wouldn't it be good to be busy doing kingdom work? And takes the eyes off the almighty self and gives it to somebody else. So, and it's a joy to work with you, to do an Insta-text and be able to share prayer requests at 6 o'clock in the morning with each other, whatever the case may be. Yeah. So I think that's God's kindness of putting like-minded people together, where he's not here in the flesh, so to speak. I can have Leslie.
Well, I am honored, and thank you for giving us your time. Once again, my name is Leslie Salazar-Carrillo, and this is Life Grounded.